It's 6 o'clock. We'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Everybody turn your microphones on, talk close into them, and turn your cell phones off. We'll have roll call.
Mayor Schoenberger.
Here.
Councilor Anderson.
Here.
Councilor Bain.
Here.
Councilor Baker.
Here.
Councilor Dykes.
Here.
Councilor Quinlan.
Here.
Everybody has a copy of the minutes of the regular meeting of November 13th. Are there any corrections? Hearing none, they stand approved as submitted. Visitors and delegations. Anybody here who wants to talk, now's the time. Name and address in 3 minutes.
Chuck Miller, 26060 Morgan County Road S, Brush, Colorado. Just thought I'd bring to you council's attention on a meeting with people working on the floodplain on October 27th. Monty was in attendance and I was also in attendance. I'd like to read you the first paragraph of what they sent out. The Federal Emergency Management Agencies, FEMA, quite a glare here. FEMA flood insurance rate maps identify significant flood potential in the city of Brush. Historic flooding confirms the flood potential in the city with damaging floods occurring in both 1935 and 1965. Historic newspaper accounts from the Brush News Tribune also indicate floodwaters reaching downtown in 1935 due to floodwater spilling over the top of the Burlington Northern Santa Fe Railway, with floodwater north of the tracks inundating businesses at an average depth of 2 feet. In 1965, residents successfully stopped runoff from reaching downtown by constructing a 5-foot dike around the southeast portion of town. That's the first paragraph, and I thought I'd just make it clear to the council I don't agree with what they say there, nor I guess you should probably agree, but that's pretty dangerous words and how they word that for the city of Brush. So as a concerned citizen and a businessman in this town, I'm keeping my eye on this and attending everything I can, and hopefully you do the same. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else? Moving on to, oh, okay.
Good evening. My name is Regan Benson, and I reside in Akron, and I'm here for follow-up. Typically, I write this out so I can stay within the 3 minutes, but you cut me off last time I was here, so I'm just going to kind of wing it since you're going to cut me off anyway. So I'm here on a couple reasons. The main reason being that we need to address some fee collection for open records requests through the police department, and Chief Anderson has decided that he no longer needs to communicate with me on it. So, and he did put that in writing in an email and told me that he just didn't have to do his job, essentially. So I went to Mr. Torres, the city administrator, and asked him the same question, and we had a very productive conversation, and he suggested that I reapproach council on the $30.50 that was collected for 6 pages of a police report. So just a little bit of background. I am very well versed in Criminal Justice Records Act and requests all throughout the state in police departments, sheriff's departments, and I have never come across anything so egregious as I have in Brush with the need for transparency and the fees that are being collected. The statute is very clear in that only fees can be collected that are of actual costs, okay? Chief Anderson already admitted in writing via email that he violated state statute and is profiting off information requests because it's very clear that actual costs are for only actual costs, meaning you don't get to charge 3 separate people or 2 separate people the same amount of money for the same document produced. And he did admit that he was advised to do that, which is interesting to me because he's also the custodian of records per the town of Brush. So I don't understand why there's such a problem accessing information as simple as a police report. I mean, this is simple information. This doesn't require the hour that he claimed it did to pull this out of the computer and print it off. It's very clear in statute that it's actual costs. You do not get to charge somebody a full hour's worth of work when it took you 5 minutes. And when I asked Chief Anderson if he was charging me to actually produce the report, which would make sense, it would take an hour to produce a police report after the incident, that's when he came back and said he didn't need to talk to me anymore. So it's pretty clear that this incident was used to generate revenue on records requests, and that's a problem. That's a violation of statute. So my request again to council this evening per the city administrator is that I be refunded at least $25.50 of the $30.50 that was collected based on principle and the fact that you violated statute. If you refuse to do that, of course, we can explore a challenge in district court on what actual costs are, because Chief Anderson put in writing that he's generating revenue. So that's one issue. The next issue still is surrounding your officer-involved shooting of the dog back in September, and I had done this request back in early October, and this town doesn't seem concerned that you have a police chief that hires cops that are working around the law to become cops and getting waivers to become post-certified. So, would you give me
Can you
30
summarize?
seconds?
Yeah, summarize.
Okay, that's great, thank you. So, we have standards in Colorado, post-certification, that says how cops should behave. And they set those standards. And back in June, there was a proposal to fire warning shots as a means of de-escalation, and it was very much frowned upon and said specifically by the department chair of firearms, warning shots violate 3 of the 4 firearms safety rules, and other de-escalation tools should be utilized prior to use of deadly force. I just wanted you to know that. Thank you.
We will look into that again, so, and discuss that as a council. Thank you.
Just quickly, Chuck Miller again, just forgot to mention that they have the entire city limits of Brush, Colorado outlined in their report. Entire. Thanks.
Moving on to management. Number 5A, Master Nardi Special Use Permit Decision Discussion.
Okay, I guess approximately a week ago, we did have a request from the greenhouse company, Master Nardi, here in Brush. After the public special use hearing, public hearing for a special use permit, we did get a request back from them requesting if we could give them some feedback in regards to why their special use permit was denied. And so, in visiting with our legal counsel, we discussed it, and we thought that probably the best way to handle that is to ask council for some comments that we could document and send back to them in a form of a resolution, just so that we have it recorded on what we had said and get clear direction from council versus staff trying to read into your minds. So, and Bo, I know that we had talked about a resolution, but just for clarification, would you be writing the resolution documenting these? Or would that be?
That would be my idea, yes, and then
Okay.
we'd have it, excuse me, presented to council for its consideration at the next meeting, if that's the way time frame you wanna follow. You know, when we grant a permit, we have a resolution, and when we deny a permit, I think it's equally important that we have a resolution to set out the council's findings, on the decision.
So the discussion really is if we can get some feedback that, slow feedback, so we gotta write it, but some comments back from you guys so Bo can generate this resolution for council. And I do think the next meeting would be the right timing for it.
Anyone to start?
I'll start.
Okay.
I won't say there's one reason why I voted to deny the special use permit. I won't say there's one reason. There was many reasons, really. Probably the biggest reason for me was in the report that we got from their professional, he stated that he updated the findings of that study. I didn't find that he updated anything on that study. The
Are
study,
you referring to the noise study?
yeah, the noise, I'm sorry,
Okay.
the noise study. The noise study that was done in 2001 showed residential limit at 50.3, which is over the Colorado statutes. So that was a big problem for me. I didn't feel comfortable signing off on people living in an area where the noise may exceed the Colorado limit. It was stated that he updated that study, but really all he did was explain that that was within the legal limit if you rounded down that decimal. I didn't find that. One of the other things that bothered me was that the 200% turnover rate that Master Nardi's had, they really didn't give any reasons why their turnover rate was that high. They said they tried raising the wages, that didn't work. They tried to bus people in. But if you have a 200% turnover rate, there's a reason for it. And it's possible that it could be management, some sort of management problem that the city shouldn't become involved in. That's two of the things. And I would also say the violation, the $180,000 violation, I didn't think it was reasonable for Master Nardi's to claim that it was a learning curve and they didn't understand they were discharging chemicals into our water that they didn't know about or they didn't understand. So it was really multiple reasons why I voted to deny.
The public health aspects were the biggest reason that I voted not to, because this was originally an industrial use area. And to have people living there, where they were basically there 24 hours a day, working and living, they couldn't get away from the sound. The sound study was unacceptable because it was a prevalence study from 16 years prior. The other reason that I said no is because the neighbors showed up in force and said no, they did not want it. So those were my reasons.
Okay, so for me, noise was a big thing. As everyone knows, we are voted on not to vote in our thoughts, but our constituents. And not just the nearby neighbors, but I had many approach me in my zone that felt they want to keep the business here, but they didn't feel that was the right way. There's already noise issues nearby and putting people that much closer. Plus, I did my own Googling and research on some of their fines and different things, and there's just too many red flags for me in good conscience to have voted yes.
And that is, Heath's not here. He was the other no vote. Vicky was absent, so does that cover it? Is that the explanation as to reason?
Be fun to have some information from Mr. Becker, who made the motion.
Yeah.
No. Can I add something?
Yeah.
The other thing is their lawyer made a comment about that we allowed them to, you know, that we did the change of zoning and different stuff so that they could come back for special use. Anybody can apply for that special use permit. There's no guarantee from a year ago or the exact date that when we discussed it, that it was gonna be a said yes, done deal. To me, it was, yes, you're welcome to apply. And we look at everything at that point. So,
There's something I will add too, is back to the noise issue exceeding, Master Nardi's did claim that if the noise were a problem, if we allowed the special use permit and the noise were a problem, they would look at solving that problem by either having residents close the windows or add insulation to the building. I didn't think that was reasonable. That was a reasonable solution.
Okay. Does that conclude that?
It's good for
Yep.
us.
Sounds good. All right.
And then we'll get this together, and then it'll be on the next council agenda as an action item.
As an action, just to clarify why it was denied. All right. Okay. You're welcome to stay again, or you can take off if you wish. So we'll move on to management number B, 2018 housing incentives. Tyler.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. I believe this is the third year that I've come before council with the request for the incentive. The first year, of course, it being adopted, and then the subsequent years it being extended. In our Partnering for Progress that council, as well as other local organizations, have been a part of, at our last meeting, we put together a list of things that we want to accomplish when it comes to these different 5 challenges in the community. And with housing, the second one on the list is, quote, bring recommendation to City Council to extend new residential housing incentive for at least 1 more year. And so we're coming to council requesting that we do just that. And in your packets is the policies, one for the Brush residential building incentive and one for Brush multifamily residential building incentive. And the third one, just the incentive policy agreement. And these are identical to what we've done the last couple of years, the only changes being, of course, the date, whereas as it sits right now, they would have to get a permit issued by the end of this year and a certificate of occupancy by the end of next year. And, of course, with this year coming to an end very shortly, that kind of negates the whole first half of that. So it would be extending it to them for builders or homeowners to get the incentive or get the building permit, by 2019, and then get a certificate of occupancy by 2020. And the only other change on here on the multifamily one, we gave those numbers on there for the total cost. I just upped the building permit fee based on the calculation on the total valuation of $175,000 instead of $150,000. Some people might argue, well, that's a little bit low. We can't build a house for that much, but just to give them some type of ballpark estimate as to what it would cost. So with that, I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Something that I'll point out to council is our plant investment fees for water and wastewater. We've had them at the same level for quite a few years, and normally you would increase those as costs go up to acquire water for the future. And so one thing that we do have is our wastewater engineer, John McGeehan, JDS Hydro. They're actually going to be looking at our water, not the water rate structure, but our plant investment fee, what we've been charging for that in the past and where it should be at today. I think the last time we increased it was either 5 or 7 years ago. So it's been quite a while for the plant investment fee. And so this is becoming more important as an incentive because that cost will more than likely climb up. And even though we're the lowest, I think we're the lowest in the region right now for water plant investment fees, wastewater plant investment fees. So that might be coming to your attention here in the future.
And with that as well, I think it's important to add that since we put this incentive in place, it's impressed a lot of people, but originally we hadn't seen a whole lot of momentum. But gradually each year more and more people have come to recognize it who hadn't seen it before or have been willing to go forward because of it, recognizing the cost of building just continues to go up. So as Monty mentioned, the low cost of what we have here in Brush becomes more and more attractive to those who are building. So we expect more and more people to continue to look to Brush to build in coming years for many
Tyler, is
reasons.
my arithmetic right that essentially it's a 50% discount on these fees?
Correct. Exactly, 50% discount.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for all that. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the 2018 housing incentives.
Second.
Motion and second. Discussion? And roll call vote.
Mayor Schomburger,
Yes.
Counselor Anderson,
Yes.
Counselor Bain,
Yes.
Counselor Baker,
Yes.
Counselor Dykes,
Yes.
Counselor Quinlan.
Yes.
Moving on to number C, first reading of ordinance number 863-17, cargo containers. Karen, are you talking about that? Yep.
What you have in front of you is the proposed ordinance this evening, and we're just asking for a counselor to introduce this and then a motion to approve for publication on first reading. The public hearing on this item is actually scheduled for hopefully December 18th, 2017, if council agrees to do a special meeting that evening. And there is a memo in the packet that outlines a little bit of the history in terms of how we got to this point, in terms of some of the public input, as well as the planning commission recommendation. And I'll definitely be going into more detail about that at the public hearing, unless you'd like some of that now.
I think we must be good
Okay.
with that. All right. Is there a counselor to introduce the ordinance?
I'll make a motion to introduce the ordinance, first reading ordinance of number 863-17, adopting an amendment to chapter 16 of the Brush Municipal Code concerning cargo containers.
All right, so that was the introduction and the motion? Okay. Is there a second?
I second.
All right. Discussion?
I'll say something. On planning and zoning, I was the one no vote for this change. And pretty much I was hung up on I didn't like the date that allowed all of the city containers to, I think we had a June 1st date that we said anything that was placed before June 1st would be okay with, as long as they made changes to the appearance of the cargo container, and then also it had to deal with the flood regulations. And I think I was wrong with that no vote, because after I got home, I thought about this the last few days, and I was thinking the city was actually allowing itself an exemption that it wasn't going to give to the cargo container that was placed in the downtown core. But the only difference really is in the downtown core, most of planning and zoning believed that that should only be allowed under a special use permit. So it was really a zoning issue rather than the date change. So I think I was wrong with that no vote, so I do support this measure.
Roll call vote?
Mayor Schomburger,
Yes.
Counselor Anderson,
Yes.
Counselor Bain,
Yes.
Counselor Baker,
Yes.
Counselor Dykes,
Yes.
Counselor Quinlan.
Yes.
Moving on to number D, council meetings.
Yes, and we're asking council's consideration in canceling the December 25th city council meeting and scheduling a special meeting for December 18th, 2017.
Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion that we cancel our December 25th regular council meeting and create a special meeting December 18th.
Second.
Motion and second, discussion?
Mayor, did you want me to present bills at that December 18th special meeting, or do we just want one set of bills in December?
Would it be better for
What
you
do
to
you
present
need?
bills at that meeting? Does it make a difference to you?
We can do it. We're gonna have to, we usually do a second one that finance just comes in and signs off on. It's
Yeah.
only a week apart, so there probably wouldn't be much there. But it's entirely up to council.
It would probably be better to include that other week, so why don't we not do the bills that week and we'll just do what we've done in the past, which have
Okay.
people come in and
We'll come
sign
in
off
and
on it.
sign.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Okay. And roll call vote?
Okay, Mayor Schomburger,
Yes.
Counselor Anderson,
No.
Counselor Bain,
Yes.
Counselor Baker,
Yes.
Counselor Dykes,
Yes.
Counselor Quinlan.
Yes.
Finance.
I make a motion to approve disbursements and payroll from November 13th through the 27th of 2017, totaling $198,107.03.
Second.
Motion and second, discussion? And again, a roll call vote?
Mayor Schomburger,
Yes.
Counselor Anderson,
Yes.
Counselor Bain,
Yes.
Counselor Baker,
Yes.
Counselor Dykes,
Yes.
Counselor Quinlan.
Yes.
A quick I guess a question. Tyler, which one do you have as far as an agenda?
Yeah, I
Does-
the right one in front of you, because we.
Oh, so we're not gonna have, oh, okay. All right. Okay,
It's the one that's posted, is in front of
okay.
Okay. Staff reports. Finance. Joy.
I have nothing this evening.
Okay. Thanks. Police Department.
I hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving. I know I did, just look at me. We've been pretty busy over the last week. Just so you know, we had another attempted murder. This will be number 4 for the year. Individual is stabbed and was flown to Greeley, so we're hoping for his quick recovery. Drug arrests are up. Muck's got some more this weekend, so good job, Mucks, and good job for the officers. Ross, who's sitting back there, publicly acknowledge him. he wrote a ticket. And normally people get tickets, they're not happy. But this individual, his quote is, he felt Ross was the best law enforcement officer he's ever had to deal with, even though he got a ticket. So good job.
Job, Ross.
And we had 474 calls for service.
Wow. All right, thank you. Community development, Karen.
I just wanted to note that the long-awaited annexation of the English property, you should have that petition in front of you at your next meeting on December 11th. So at that meeting, I'll be asking council to accept that petition, and then we can move it through and schedule the public hearing, looking at January 22nd for the hearing date on that annexation. And then I would also like to schedule a planning commission meeting for Monday, January 15th at 5:30. For 2 items where we would make a formal zoning recommendation on 2 properties, the golf course and then the English annexation property.
All right. Thank you. Things are moving.
They are moving.
Yes. Marketing, Tyler.
Just one announcement, next Monday night is our next Partnering for Progress meeting at 5:30 at the school district office, and that'll include all the different representatives from the boards, from all the participating organizations, including city council. And we'll be recapping what's been done since our last meeting and then taking next steps from there to address those 5 challenges that I alluded to earlier.
Thank you. City Clerk, Andrea.
Nothing
Nothing?
to report, no.
All right, and City Administrator.
Just one item that's new. Well, I guess I'll mention a few things. We're still having discussions with a solar company in regards to 2 community solar gardens. And so we're hoping to try and get a meeting either this week or next week with our point of contact to discuss that in further detail. But I do think it's going to be probably the next month or so that we bring it back to council for a work session item to see if we're okay with that moving forward into the future. And also, there's the old issue we had with the Verizon tower out on Hospital Road. You know, they have asked about locating that at the cemetery on the back side of it, where those big pine trees are, and they're wanting to reapply. So you'll see a new application here in the next month or so as well. And that requires a special use permit as well. So you'll see that. Last thing is, in our upcoming year's budget, we have a snow blower, the large city snow blower. The cost of that we had in the budget for $141,000, and we've been talking to a company that provides the right style and right type of snow blower that we need, and they're thinking that they can, with a trade-in on our existing one, which is in very poor shape, somewhere around $80,000 that they can get that to us. So it'd be if we can get the right deal, we'll come back to council or through the finance committee and see if we can move forward with the purchase last minute this year. Just try and save that extra money. That's all I have.
All right, thank you. Council reports.
I had one thing from a citizen who had tried to rent restaurant and facilities, well, not the restaurant, but the facilities at the golf course, and she couldn't get a hold of anybody she wanted it for a baby shower, and she couldn't get anybody to return her calls, she couldn't get anybody on the phone, and so she finally went somewhere else, so I just thought I would pass that along.
Good to know, thanks. Anything else? And just an update at our work session number 3, we've had some, for the code of conduct, we've had some last minute information that needs evaluated, so we're going to postpone that until next meeting. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.